Hello, fellow Fremonters. I'm Jared Fisher, and today we are reading Revelation chapter 15. You may have encountered in your lifetime strong and divergent opinions about how to interpret this book. That's okay. Our job is not to master this book and to perfectly decode every image and number, but to pay attention and to listen as God's children. We should be careful about where our certainty rests. It is good to be sure of Christ's character, of his authority, and of his presence. It is good to trust God with the physical and moral outcome of the seen and the unseen universe. We should not, however, be too quick to be certain about any particular detailed interpretation of this book. Part of the freedom of being God's children is the freedom from needing to immediately understand every verse in the Bible. In the same way that we are freed from needing to stand in judgment ourselves over our neighbors, our city, our society. We read today that God's wrath is completed. For me, and maybe for you, it is disturbing and even embarrassing to think of God's wrath. I find it hard to trust that anyone's wrath can be good, even God's. Who has a pure enough character to even speak of God's judgment without it becoming like a rhetorical justification for my own hatreds? Think of a terrible injustice that you know of. Maybe it was done to you, or maybe it was done to a vulnerable person that you know. And remember that nothing is hidden from God. God's wrath is about making right all the wrong that has been done, whether known or hidden. You know, his wrath, it's not like you and I getting angry. When we get angry, there's this euphoria of being justified and a mix of kind of clarity and confusion. There's a loss of self-control, probably some overreaction, maybe even a delight in causing pain. For God, though, he is slow to anger. He's not confused with passion or fear or humiliation. His reaction is perfect in both timing and proportion, which is to say, it actually brings justice. He does not enjoy punishing evil people, but instead is very happy when we turn and find salvation in him. You know, his wrath, God's wrath, is a part of his plan to make a new heaven and a new earth, but it is for him to deal out, not us. In fact, we've earned it as the moral agents of this world, but if we are accepting Jesus, then the wrath that you and I have earned has been given to him instead. And he's happy to make an eternal family out of his enemies, and so should we. The offer of God's love, it became unconditional for us, for everybody, when Jesus chose to be forsaken for us. God's wrath is contingent. It's a calculated and measured reaction out of his holiness and justice and love to this lively thicket of evil that we have made and are making together. God, he is a person of enduring character, and because he's made a way for us, we will get to know him forever. We'll come to know directly his compassion, his love, his holiness, his faithfulness. We read today that his wrath will be finished, and there will be no signs of his anger in the coming age. His wrath is not an enduring part of his character, but it is his justice coming up against the evil of this age, which is passing away. Verse 2 talks about those who have been victorious. I'm definitely not an expert on this book, but I think that the most direct way to understand the now what reaction that we're supposed to have after reading the book of Revelation is to pay attention to what overcoming looks like. You and I are not the ones entrusted with the bowls of God's wrath, even though the currents of our culture can confuse us into thinking that contempt is our calling. Instead, like chapter 1 said, our calling is suffering and kingdom and patient endurance in Jesus, trusting that the slaughtered lamb is the beginning and the end. Thank you.